Noreen and welcome to my kitchen. It is Sunday. It is October 28th and we are living through Sandy. Hurricane Sandy came up the coast starting late Friday night, and really all it's brought to us is a tremendous amount of cold rain. There's been a tremendous amount of flooding further to the east. We're about 45 minutes from the beach, so the people that are living along the coast have it much worse than we do. It's heading, I think it's up in the Outer Banks right now, but really they were just preparing for some cold, wet rain. But once I understand it hits past Virginia, it's probably going to get a lot worse. So for all of my viewers who are living up in the northern mid-Atlantic states, I hope that you weather through this, and I hope you stay safe. So what better thing to make on a blustery Sunday afternoon for dinner than a really nice hearty beef stew? And that is a kitchen basic. That is something everyone needs to know how to make. So of all things today, we actually cleaned the bedroom carpet, and when I ran back to the store I thought I'm gonna get some stew beef. So this is how we're gonna make beef stew. This is my way. I like to put a couple of different things in my beef stew. It's probably the Italian lineage in me, but this is always how my mom used to make it. I just have, this is actually, I'm making a lot. Because I'm going to freeze half of it and save it for another meal. But this is about 4.5 pounds of stew beef that I went through, because it always comes in giant chunks, and I like to cut it in smaller pieces, because when I eat this I don't want to have to cut it in half. When you eat a stew, I think you should be able to pick up a piece and eat it without cutting it. So what we're going to do is we're going to season some flour. I've got about, I'd say about 2 cups of flour here, and I'm going to put about a teaspoon of black pepper and about the same of pink salt, and then I'm going to add to it about a teaspoon or more of onion powder. I measure like Deb over at Purbane Channel, which just means I don't measure. Let's say, to be safe, a teaspoon each. Onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, salt, and then my secret ingredient, because I think marjoram goes very well with beef, I'm going to throw about a teaspoon of that in there. I have my cast iron skillet heating on the stove, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to dredge some of this beef in the flour. I don't really think you can make a good beef stew unless you brown your meat first, and this is going to help thicken your stew in the end. So if you do this extra step at the beginning, is it smoking? Don't let your oil smoke. I've got some unfiltered sunflower oil in that pan, and that has a bit of a lower smoking point. You can use any kind of oil that you like. It doesn't matter. It can be olive oil, sunflower, safflower, vegetable, canola. It doesn't matter. You can throw bacon fat in there if that's what you want to brown your beef in. It's not going to hurt a thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the #1 rule when you're going to brown off meat. You'll notice that, see, my mom always used to brown the meat in the pot. And the pot is too deep, and you're really not going to brown the meat as much as you're going to steam the meat. And you don't want to steam the meat, you want to get it a nice brown crust on that meat. So I've got my skillet ready over there with some oil. And the other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to crowd the pan. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to go ahead and have Rick come over this way. I'm going to turn my fan off. I'm going to turn this back on, and I'm going to start laying the meat right in there. I probably have enough right here on my plate to put in the pan without overcrowding it. And that would be Spooky wanting to go outside, but Spooky has decided that he likes living in the neighbor's backyard because they feed him crappy cat food. How do you deal with telling your neighbor not to feed your cat? That's how I would ask what your opinion is.
It's the first day we've seen him in 2 weeks.
He's just been hanging out in their backyard, and then when he comes out and we see him, he sort of runs away. So I don't know if he's just decided he likes it there better or not. But he came in and he loved on us and he's eaten, and now he wants to go back out. So the thing is, I know that you cannot keep a cat prisoner, don't get me wrong. But anyway, back to the beef. You're going to brown this off, see?
And you don't have to cook it all the way through because we're going to stew it. But you want to get a good brown on there, okay? And this is actually not quite brown enough for me, but... But don't crowd it, and then what you'll do when you get this nice and brown is you're going to just transfer it off to the pot. And in that case, we're going to be using this. This is my 16-quart stock pot. I know it seems a little big, but I'm going to be making a lot of stew, and I want a lot of room to stir it. And Rick's always telling me I'm going to need a bigger pot or a bigger bowl, so there ain't no bigger one than this. Oh, spooky. Okay, see this?
Nothing but a sizzling forever.
I know. And the other thing I wanted to tell you, for those of you who are just learning how to cook, people email me every day and tell me that I'm really helping them, me and Cat's Cradle and Bev and Mrs. Volpe. They're learning a lot. So with that in mind, I know that I have a lot of seasoned cooks who watch me, and I get lots of information from them. You know what? We all learn from each other. As far as the stew meat goes, when you buy stew meat in the grocery store, what it is the trimmings of what they've trimmed up other cuts of meat to put in the meat case. And when the stew meat, a lot of times, I'm not saying every single time, a lot of times the stew meat is what's left over and they sell it. So you could get a mixture. You could get anything from top sirloin to chuck roast to chuck steak to, you could get ribeye meat in here or anything like that. So when I go through it, you can definitely tell the difference. You're going to get some pieces that are highly marbled. You're going to get some pieces that are really, really tender, and you're going to be able to tell the difference. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. You can actually get a roast and cut it up yourself and use this, use the cut up roast in your beef stew. I think, why bother? You're getting stew beef. Used to be cheap. It's not anymore. It's just like short ribs used to be cheap, and they're not anymore. Short ribs used to be throwaway meat, and they're not anymore. So let me grab a slotted spoon here. Like I said, you don't have to cook the beef all the way through. You just want to get a good brown on that. And I wanted you to see what this looked like before I transfer it. And then I'm going to go after I do that so you can see what this looks like. But you can see here, and there's a good one. It's getting a bit of a crust on it. And it's brown, and it's beautiful, and brown equals flavor. So basically what we've done now, we've cooked some of the water out of it, and it's evaporated, and it's starting to brown. And at this point, you can let this go as brown as you like, but I'm going to go ahead because I have quite a bit of meat to deal with. And I'm going to put it in the pot. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue browning off my meat until it's done. And then when it comes back, I'll bring you along and we'll build our stew from there. So I'll be back when it's time to do that. All right, our meat is all brown, and I just had been transferring the cooked meat into this, or the browned meat into this stock pot. And I just stuck the pot on top of the burner, and I'm just going to let it sit there. It's going to steam up.
And it is really good, too.
And it's yummy. But I'll come over here and show you what I have going on that's going to go in the pot. We've got 2 medium-sized onions, about 4 cloves of garlic that are finely minced, about 4 to 6 stalks of celery that I had a bunch of celery in the fridge, and I chopped about half of it right off of the bunch. I've got 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms. I've got a pound of baby carrots. I've got about 2 pounds of potatoes that were about medium size, and I just washed them and quartered them in most cases. I've got a quart of beef stock. I've got a 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. And here I have a tablespoon each again of marjoram, onion powder, and garlic powder. And then I have about a tablespoon of beef bouillon powder. You can leave this out. This is a personal preference, but I am going to be adding more water, probably at least another quart, to the pot because this is a stew and we want it to be nice and gravy-ish. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put in the onion, celery, and garlic and mushrooms, and I'm going to get them going. Give that a good stir. And the goal here is just to get everything in the pot, okay? It's not to brown anything or, you know, cook it. It's just to get it in the pot and get it stirred up and combined. And then we're going to add the liquid, and then the stew is going to do its own work. In with the garlic and the mushrooms. Give it a good stir. And I like to add mushrooms to my beef stew because it adds a really nice, rich flavor. You can add dehydrated mushrooms, and those mushrooms are going to flavor the stock really nicely, the gravy. All right. Then we'll go ahead and we'll put everything else in here. Carrots. Potatoes. This is really easy, but it's really basic, and we all need to know how to make a good stew. And a stew can feed a lot of people. You see, we're putting at least twice as many vegetables as we have meat. You add a bread to this, and this pot of stew is going to feed a lot of people. It's going to feed us way more than one meal. It's going to feed us at least 3 meals and some lunches. And I'm going to add my can of tomatoes right in there. You can add crushed tomatoes. You can add sun-dried tomatoes. It just depends, whatever your preference. I'm going to add my quart of beef stock. And when you buy stock in the store, if you don't make your own, read the ingredients. The ingredients on this are easy. Veal stock, beef stock, a mirepoix made of carrot, onion, and celery stalks. Red wine, tomato paste, a little gelatin, and that's just for body. Sea salt, carrot stock, and celery stock. And the reason that this has gelatin in it is because it doesn't have carrageenan in it. A lot of times you'll see carrageenan in a stock. And I'm trying to avoid things with carrageenan in them because carrageenan is actually derived from seaweed. And with the situation right now with the ocean waters, I prefer to avoid that if at all possible, okay? So that's just my own personal preference, and of course you can use whatever you like. I'm gonna take this tomato can and I'm gonna fill it up a couple of times. I'm gonna add water to this until it covers everything in the pot. So I'm probably gonna add, I don't know, 4 cans of this water, and then I'm gonna add my beef bouillon powder. This is 28-ounce can, so it's about 3 cups. It's just a skosh over 3 cups. I'm going to add 1 more can, and then I'm going to give it a good stir. I'm going to throw in my bouillon powder, and I'm going to put the lid on it. I'm going to bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, and I'm going to let it cook until it's done. And this should thicken up perfectly, and it should become a really beautiful stew. Oh, I forgot my seasonings. So you can go with the seasonings: onion powder, garlic powder, marjoram, beef bouillon, and then I'm going to add that much, about a tablespoon of butcher's cut pepper, and I like that. So, you know, that's your own preference. You don't have to add that if you don't want to. It smells amazing already. I might add a little kitchen bouquet later on, but I'm going to let this cook and simmer and go on its own merry way, and I'm going to go do other things. So, when this is ready to almost serve, I'll bring you back. I'll show you what it looks like. We're all done. This has simmered for, I don't know, at least 3 hours.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, and it is awesome because we gave it a quick taste. So I'm going to mix you a bowl of this delicious, hearty
basic beef stew. I don't know about you, but I think that looks really lovely. There you go. Beef stew. We're going to have this with some biscuits, and that's it. And we're going to have plenty left over for lunches and at least one more dinner this week. So,
that's a basic beef stew everyone should know how to make. I hope you try it. I hope you love it. And until next time, I'll see ya.